Today, we're going to talk to John Jones about a company called MediKarma, who HITLAB has been studying recently and found some incredible evidence around what they're doing around an avatar named Jill. And Don, just beginning, just for the audience's purpose, for folks who don't know you, give us a little bit of your background and certainly in digital health and life sciences over the last few decades.
Well, I've had a kind of an eclectic life in healthcare, building some of the largest healthcare companies in the country, American Medical Response, MCare, which is now called Envision, largest medical group in the country, MA, which is the largest private practice in Mexico, and a lot of healthcare service providers before I made a turn and went into healthcare technology via Qualcomm, where I spent almost 12 years building out really the beginnings of digital health, and worked with a couple thousand companies around the world in the digital health space. For the last 9 years, I've been working with companies on either advising them or on their boards, and across the spectrum of digital health, from wearables to smart apparel to all kinds of software and apps, and the list goes on. But a very eclectic background in applied technology and healthcare.
Yeah, it really is incredible to see. And I've known you for 20 years now. I guess we're either getting old or something. Time is standing still, but certainly doesn't feel like it. But it is amazing to see how many companies you've impacted and how many careers you've impacted along the way. One of the ones that we've studied recently and that you're also a part of is called MediKarma. And just a fascinating company and a really interesting technology. Tell us a little bit about MediKarma to start with.
Well, MediKarma is out to change the consumer experience, kind of the front end of healthcare. Most companies that I come across, and I'm sure you come across, Stan, are working to improve the provider side in one way or another of how providers access information, make decisions, provide care, et cetera. MediKarma is really focused more on how do we change the consumer side of the equation? How do we make things better, more convenient, and provide more information that's relevant in the hands of the consumer? And so it's very much focused on that front door of the consumer and how they access, how they interface with, and how they even learn about what they should ask about in their healthcare experiences.
And so within MediKarma, and really what we focused on in our study is this avatar called Jill, who's fascinating, incredibly realistic, and just in, a really nice front end, like you're talking about, in terms of just being able to have a conversational discussion about healthcare with an avatar who does seem like they're, living, breathing across the screen from you. From your focus and from your experience and what you've seen on how Jill is impacting the healthcare system, what are some of the economic benefits that people are seeing from using Jill?
Well, it's interesting. This is a big effort. I would equate it to kind of what Peter Drucker did with Toyota many, many decades ago in terms of making a better experience and making a better vehicle. And this is about making a better healthcare experience, but through the eyes of the consumer and how the consumer manages it. And so the economic value to the consumer comes from first having a better experience, knowing more about what they should do next, and what they should ask their healthcare provider about. And that all comes about because Jill is armed with a longitudinal medical record that's made up of the data from all the healthcare providers you've interacted with to date and dynamically updated over time. And based on that, Jill takes on characteristics that were somewhat familiar around Alexa and Siri, but still Jill can answer questions about your healthcare, and it's personalized to you. And so you can answer questions. Jill can also prompt you into what you should do next, which I think is one of the most common questions that the average American consumer is faced in healthcare, and that is, what should I do next? They go through life gaining additional information about their health status, information that is given to them by their practitioners, their health system, maybe an online system. But at the end of the day, the consumer falls back to and is asking the question, what should I do next? And we really designed Jill to help the consumer be their online concierge, coach to help answer that question, what to do next, provide additional information, maybe provide some prompts that they could ask their own physician. Did your physician ask you about X, Y, and Z? Perhaps given your record, you should ask these following questions. We put that in that context so that Jill can become that personal concierge about health that's in that consumer's pocket. That actually is supported by both a dynamic health score that MediKarma designs for the person, and a personal avatar that gives a visual representation of your health status based on your major organs. And so with this combination of visual stimulus, a score that's dynamically changing based on your actions, dynamically updated medical record, which is driving Jill's ability to answer on prompt questions, we created a really interesting front door experience that really we've not seen anything in comparison in the rest of healthcare. This, again, is really about prompting the consumer to come to the table with more information, the right questions to ask, the ability to ask more questions if they need to, and to get the answer to what should I do next.
It's fantastic. And so the ability for a healthcare stakeholder to implement Jill and see an economic difference in their equation, their overall cost equation, where does that derive from?
Well, I think we're early in the process, so it's going to come out in the process. I mean, I think going back to the Peter Drucker comparison, the making a car less expensive happened after they first made an assembly process that had a lot of changes in it from the traditional assembly process in healthcare. And I think that's what we're working on under Jill. So I think Jill is very much based not only in your own medical record, but in preventative care. And in helping answer what you should be doing, there's preventative care that you should do no matter whether you have a health condition or not. And then there's preventative care and maintenance care that you should be doing if you have a chronic condition. And Jill is going to be involved in all of that. And so the reality, we all know, and there's plenty of evidence out there, that if patients are adherent to recommended therapy and adherent to recommended processes in their treatment of their chronic care conditions, they will tend to do better, and they'll tend to do better less expensively for their healthcare payer. So the trick from our perspective at MediKarma is put it in language, put it in a level of convenience that the average consumer can take advantage of. Answer the question what they should do next, which includes when they should do it, how they should do it from a timeliness perspective. And as a result, we expect that adherence to therapy, adherence to treatment protocol, and adherence to drug medications is all likely to fall into place. And that, we know, there's plenty of evidence suggests will lower costs.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that really does show where the rubber hits the road when it comes to all of this. And so talk a little bit about the technical stack. What are some of the technical components that makes Jill possible that we haven't seen yet in the healthcare system?
Well, there's a lot of different components here, but the keys are machine learning, AI, and the ability to use computer graphics and computer graphic generation in a way to create realistic avatars that create a level of empathy and interaction with the consumer that the consumer says, there's some value here. I'm getting answers to my questions. I'm getting some suggestions of what I should ask my practitioners. I'm getting reminders of things I can do. We have on the roadmap the ability to interface with different things for scheduling. So a simple example would be, it's time, based on your medical record and your age and sex, it's time for your mammography. Would you like me to find a center close to you? Would you like me to schedule that appointment for you? So you can begin to see the concierge-like services evolve so that actually interfacing with healthcare becomes simpler because Jill takes care of some of the mundane activities on your behalf. So not only does Jill maybe prompt you into doing things you should be doing and what you should do next, but then actually takes on a bit of that workload to actually get that coordinated and scheduled for you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And some of the clinical indicators that you're anticipating or that you're seeing already improve as a result of Jill, talk a little bit about those and what you're seeing on the clinical improvement side for patients.
Well, I think the biggest advantage is that come from regular preventative care and adherence to protocol that have been well tested through a series of clinical trials, whether there be a therapy involved or a drug involved, medication involved, or a more complex pathway. Is well documented across healthcare that adherence to a protocol drives both outcomes and cost savings, and so how do you get adherence? And the theory and thesis that Jill is built on, and all of MediKarma's offering is you offer a level of convenience and a level of confidence that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm supposed to be doing it on a timely basis, because I can rely on Jill and I can rely on the MediKarma app to keep me on schedule, so to speak. And if I have additional questions, I can get answers to those questions, and I've got additional benefits of services. All of that adds up into I'm doing what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to be doing it, and as a result, I lower the risk of more complex problems developing in my health. Most physicians try to give people a list of things to do, but frankly, sometimes they're hard to remember, and they're hard to remember on a timely basis. And most people have never had a list from their primary care physician of all the preventative care they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, and how often they're supposed to do it. Somehow they're just supposed to magically keep track of it. I think pediatricians do a reasonable job with new mothers, but beyond that, it's we know there's preventative care we're supposed to be doing. I'm not sure any of us know what it is. Our own veterinarians and optometrists and dentists do a better job of getting us in on preventative care than most primary care physicians, let alone complex care related to chronic conditions. So we really hope that MediKarma and Jill go a long way to solving that gap and helping people stay on track.